in this area?
He's in Fort Collins.
Oh, okay.
He practiced here.
Okay. Cool. Matt and Mac.
My name's Gurpreet.
Gurpreet. Gurpreet. Okay.
I'm a Q9. I got introduced to AK. I used to be a massage therapist a few years back. And the person that I shared space with did muscle testing, not so much AK, but that kind of introduced me to it. And when I got to the school here, I learned a little bit more chiro side and AK.
Okay. Come in. Come in. Welcome. Say your name again. Gurpreet. Is there a T?
Yeah, it's easy.
Okay, Gurpreet. Okay. And welcome back, Kayla. Good. Good. I went through it 3 times before I this at least twice before I really felt like I was really, you know, I started TAing in my 3rd time, but yeah. I'm glad you're back because there's a lot of the stuff that this weekend will be pretty basic, and we'll probably drill down into it more than we did in the foundational course. So. Wow. Very cool. That's a great background. None of it's all the same stuff. We're just coming at it from a different, you know, maybe a different angle, more, you know, different angle. But okay. You teach? Oh, awesome. Okay, very cool. Aaliyah.
I'm L.
Cool. Dean, of course.
I'm Dean. 2-7. I did the course last year. Yep, love it. A lot of
And that's the key, is to, when you learn this stuff, go find people who stand still long enough to let you test them. If you don't have a practice already, you know, just, you know, family members, whoever will let you test them, because it takes a while. Some of the stuff takes a while to master. And you guys all know Whitney, Dr. Whitney. Dr. Whitney.
Here, I have my own practice. So I'm a naturopath, which is different than most of these guys are all chiros. And I was fortunate to actually learn from a naturopath originally, which was great.
Tony, yeah.
I use AK in my practice all day long. And so if you guys have any questions of how to integrate this into naturopathic medicine, I had no idea how to do that. So I spent a long time trying to figure that out. And I also teach the NDT selective, which is happening right now, and I teach the AK selective. And so the AK selective is a little more geared towards the functional nutrition side of this, of how you can put it into naturopathic practice. And so it's going to be completely different than what you learn here. But if you're interested and you want to keep learning, that's also great. So that'll start in January.
Completely different, huh?
Yeah, well, not complete. Well, I can't teach 100 hours still, right? So it's more of how I use AK in my practice. I use some of the same terminology, so there's like crossover, so that, you know, I'm not just making stuff up, and so that you can think all the language. And yeah.
Cool. All right.
And Rocky back there.
Oh, yes. Hi.
That AK is other
Go to the source. Yeah. What is your name again? Rafi. Okay. Wow. Okay. Wow. it's always exciting. I don't know how many times I've been here. I think I started teaching here in 18 when my good friend Dr. McCall was teaching, and he couldn't do a couple of the sessions, so I did two. That's how I got introduced down here. 7 years ago, I guess, almost 8 years ago, and then I've taught the 100-hour course. I think this will be maybe my third or fourth time here, and then last year we did the foundational course, which was the first time I taught it. And it was kind of an experiment. And then fortunately, a lot of people wanted to continue on. But then my partner, Jane, fell in March and broke her shoulder very badly. And everything I had to, we were going to finish the course starting in March and go on. But everything had to get put on hold. So now we're back. Anyway, I don't sit very well very long, so we'll probably take frequent breaks, probably every 20 minutes. I have a couple little rules, which if you have a cell phone, most of you probably do, keep it silent and stashed away if you don't mind, because I'm addicted to my phone too. But I always tell people, unless there's two situations, if your wife is in hard labor, then you can keep it out in front of you, or if you're on a short list for an organ, then those two situations are fine. Other than that, I usually get more of a laugh, but maybe, hello, come in, grand entrance. You're making a grand entrance. That's nice. You guys all know Alyssa, right? You better by now. Can everybody see this? It looks kind of, is there a way to make it brighter or do something with the lights or? Oh yes, we need to do that. I'll let you guys figure that out while we get started here, but I can't see that very well. Can you is there something we can do with the lights maybe? Hello. Oh, yes. That's better. Is that okay? I think that'll work. The slide is a little dark. Anyway, these are the dates. You guys will get a copy of these slides, so you'll have all this info. And in these slides is the stuff I'll be lecturing on, also all the information on the individual muscles. This weekend, there's my contact info. Please contact me with any questions. I love getting feedback, questions. Email me or text me. You can call me, but you probably won't get me. But if you text me or email me, I'll get back to you. So I'll read. I never read slides. I detest that, but I'm going to read this one because it's the best, most concise definition of AK I've ever seen. And this is in the ICAK. It's on the ICAK website. Anyway, applied kinesiology is the system using muscle testing as functional neurological evaluation. The methodology is concerned primarily with neuromuscular function as it relates to the structural, chemical, and mental physiologic regulatory mechanisms. AK, which originated with the chiropractic profession, is an approach to clinical practice with multidisciplinary application. So we have acupuncturists and naturopaths and MDs, especially in Europe. A lot of the AK practitioners in Europe are MDs and DOs, even though it started with chiropractic. That's in the International College of Applied Kinesiology bylaws, which is the organization that I have a few slides on. That's the organization that I'm a member of, and that's who I'm credentialed to teach. So this right here puts you in, these are the two manuals that we use in this course. Most of you are familiar with this one, right? Blue Book. And then this one is Dr. David Leaf's flowchart manual. Is anybody not familiar with that one? Anyway, do you guys, does the club have those books? Oh,
but I don't.
it'd be nice. I have the PDF copy too, 'cause I got it from one of the students here several years ago. But
You can place an order.
yeah, the ICAK makes money off and it needs to make money however it can, and it does make money off these books. So if you can spring, or even go together and get the flowchart manual is absolutely essential for really if you want to get really into AK. Dr. David Leaf, we just lost him last year to cancer. He was, I think, 77 or 8 years old, still practicing up until he couldn't. He was one of my mentors, and huge loss. Dr. Walter, we lost probably 14 years ago to cancer. Anyway, this is the same thing, only here's, this puts you right into the Dr. George Goodhart resource library, which has tons of stuff. This is all for, this will be in your notes. Some terms that I use, I like to clear this up right off the bat. I know we're filming this, so it's been getting the back of my head the whole time, probably. So you'll hear the terms strong, weak muscles all the time when you're around AK practitioners. A more precise term for strong would be functionally facilitated or facilitated muscle. Weak would, of course, be an inhibited muscle. So I'll use those terms interchangeably. Weak and strong are less syllables, so it's easier to throw out there. Hyperfacilitated muscles are the same thing. It's a muscle that's hyperpolarized. It won't contract. I mean, it takes more, it has a higher threshold before it goes into contraction. I don't spend too much time talking about hypertonic muscles. Some practitioners are really into if a muscle is hypertonic, its antagonist is usually dysfunctional. So we can, and those of us have worked in massage and sports training and all those things, we stretch muscles till the cows come home. I mean, people are stretching the tight muscles every day and they loosen up really nicely. And then the next day they're tight again. So that's not normal. And when there's a tight muscle, there's a weak muscle. So I'll be focused much more on muscles that are weak or inhibited, somehow dysfunctional than hypertonic muscles. But we will at times talk about muscles being hypertonic. So this slide, please. This sets the stage for a lot of the stuff we'll be talking about today and going forward. There's two, and this is kind of how I think. This is kind of how the way I approach it. There's two general categories for what will result in a muscle that's dysfunctional. First category is a problem with the muscle itself. Some problem with the fascia, problem with the receptors, micro damage, myofascial trigger points, which are basically, like micro damage, congested, waste products and so on and so forth. Everything that goes from the origin to the insertion of that muscle and all of its neurological components, that's one reason a muscle can be weak. And that's a local problem. The other category, general category of what can cause a muscle to be weak is these other things we call the 5 factors in AK. And so this, we're always be coming back to this when we're workshopping and testing. First, you have to make sure the muscle itself that you're testing is functioning normally, what we call normotonic. And then you can start looking at these other factors. Of course, nerve supply, for me as a chiropractor, top of the list to look at. Subluxations, fixations, things like that. Lymphatic drainage, blood supply, craniosacral function, and of course the meridian, the energy meridian flow, which is sort of overlaid and imprinted on all the other, all the other channels of delivering energy to the muscle. So we have ways of screening for the nerve supply has to do with subluxations, and we'll learn this weekend how to how to therapy localize, and how to challenge a vertebrae to determine how it needs to be corrected. And we'll also learn, if you don't, some of you probably know this already, but we'll learn how to do non-force corrections on the vertebrae that we don't have to do any really elaborate, skillful, maneuvering. That way you can clear the subluxations. I mean, if you have a subluxation at C1 and you don't clear that, everything else you test is going to be suspect, because there's so much static in the nervous system that it's like the room's full of smoke and you don't know where the flames are. So I usually start with that. Of course, lymphatic drainage has to do with the congestion of the muscle, and usually often that can be due to congestion downstream. Muscles and organs share lymphatic drainage fields. So certain muscles are related to certain organs through how they get rid of their waste products. And that's where we use what's called the Chapman's reflexes. Some of you probably, well, those of you that had the course remember those, but Chapman's reflexes are also known as neurolymphatic reflexes. And that comes from the old osteopathic stuff in Dr. Chapman. 30s, I think, is when he was doing his work. Blood vascular supply, of course, the muscle has to get circulation as well as be able to get rid of its waste products. So we access that system through what's called the Bennett reflexes or the neurovascular reflexes. So, third of the 5 factors. Craniosacral function. Any of you taken cranial work? You have? Cool. So you're familiar with SOT, craniosacral. Craniosacrals, yeah. Those massage therapists probably have all been exposed to some craniosacral somewhere along the way. One of my favorite subjects, cranial work. We're going to learn how to screen for cranial problems, and then we'll learn how to correct a whole host of different ones. And then, of course, the meridian system, which will be able to, if a muscle is weak or dysfunctional, we can test it against the associated points that are along the spine on the bladder meridian. We can test it against its tonification, sedation points. We can test it sometimes with the B&E points, the Yang points on the face. Anyway, so the muscle test is a window into the nervous system that gives us access. If we know where to look, it gives us access to all these other systems. So anyway, so just to break that, this is if there's a problem with the muscle itself, a lot of times there's a lesion where the muscle attaches to the bone. The periosteum and the fibers of the tendon interdigitate, and they get disrupted. They get pulled and partially torn, and there's receptors there, and those receptors are like telling the brain, no more. Don't contract this muscle. It's like a fail-safe kind of thing. The spindle, of course, is what sets the tone of the muscle. The spindle is the only neurological receptor in the body that has the ability to contract. It has contractile fibers. It isn't just receptive. It also can change its sensitivity to stretch and pressure and function. So the proprioceptors are proprioceptive components of the muscle are very, very important. And we're going to learn how to turn them on and turn them off. And then thirdly, the Golgi tendon organs are also fail-safe sort of breaker switches at the musculotendinous junction. And they respond to stretch. Quick stretch that the brain senses is going to be a danger to the muscle. The brain will turn off the motor signals to that muscle. So that's what happens when a patient will have, they'll have this all the time, say, my knee just gave out. They're going upstairs and the knee just gave out. That's often a Golgi tendon organ. I use that. Golgi or Golgi? 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 There's no, okay. Golgi. Golgi, I mean, I've been saying it for years, but I kind of flip back and forth. The we can also turn those on and turn those off too, like we can in spindle cells. So we can use those to kind of test the muscle to see which components might be in lesion. When we get into the, I have a bunch more slides on this. This is just sort of a can opener here. Nerve supply, we're going to learn how to diagnose subluxations and determine what direction they need to be corrected in. We're also going to learn how to diagnose fixations, which are different, and they're tested differently and they're corrected differently. So a lot of times when in physical medicine, they sort of lump fixations, and a lot of professions don't acknowledge that a subluxation is a thing unless the joint's clear out of place. And of course, in chiropractic, that's kind of central to our whole thing. But subluxations involve one vertebrae typically, and they are much more impactful usually than fixations. Fixations involve two or more vertebrae, usually 2 or 3, and we'll learn how to fix those too. Lymph drainage, we're going to access the lymphatic system via the Chapman reflexes, which we're going to have that in your notes. There'll be a whole, wish we had the wall charts here. That'd be cool. Yeah, oh, perfect. And these are points all over the body that have been determined to alert the nervous system that there's lymphatic congestion. Now, there's a lot of debate about what these structures are actually, but they are a thing, but nobody can seem to agree on exactly how they work neurologically. That being said, these reflexes, it's believed, they're little, and it's also believed that these have a lot to do with the reflexes, what they call it, neonatal reflexes, that are held over from primitive reflexes. Thank you. They are reflexes that serve us in the womb, and then once we're born and we got gravity and all these other things to deal with, then they sort of fade into the background, but they don't necessarily disappear. And it's believed that these Chapman reflexes are in that category. And what will happen is if the lymph is building up, it should trigger these little reflexes to tell the brain, time to move, or we need some vasodilation or something, vasoconstriction maybe, and these little receptors go to sleep. So we can wake them up by stimulating them and getting things. A lot of times we're fixing these reflexes when we're doing any kind of soft tissue work and we don't even realize it. And then once the lymph, yes.
Do you use reflexes as like reference, or you actually
I treat them.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I both actually. Yeah, I'll TL them, and then if I find them, especially if they, I use them. I treat them. I use a percussor on them a lot. I do the whole old-fashioned. We vigorously rub them. They can be rather tender, but I have a percussor with a round head on it. That is just fantastic. And it's a little less uncomfortable to the patient. It's easier on me. It works really well. And then a lot of times I'll do the point, and then I'll just kind of flush the muscle with the percussor too, just to kind of make sure everybody's, we got the fluid moving here. Blood vascular supply, I probably use these the least, but these are mostly found on the head. Almost all of them are found on the head. I don't use them too much, but I think a lot of times I go straight to cranials and make cranial corrections, and a lot of times that clears these up. So, but we will learn them, and we'll learn how to test. And these also can be therapy localized. Cranial sacral function. There's a cranial sacral fluid system that moves much slower than our blood vascular system, that is responsible for bathing the central nervous system, removing toxins, providing nutrients and cushion and all kinds of things. The cranial bones, as you guys probably remember from anatomy, the cranial bones are largely derived from the ectoderm instead of the mesoderm. like all the other skeletal bones. So they're a really different kind of bone, the cranial bones are. They also don't have real synovial joints like other joints do. The joints they have are sort of like they're like flex points, like in a sidewalk. You know, they put the cracks so that's where it cracks. So that when the ground heaves, you've got, you know, the ability for the different sections to move. That's probably not the best analogy, but they can get jammed. Those joints can get jammed, and those joints do have receptors. And if they get jammed, it interferes with normal craniosacral flow, and that can start to interfere with how the nervous system functions, which can, of course, affect the motor output to the muscle. And of course, the meridians. What I refer to my patients is their wireless system of communication. So our hardwired nervous system carries electrons, and it's hardwired, it's directional, it's pretty well understood. Our wireless system uses, I tell my patients this, I'm no physicist or anything, it uses basically photons to communicate. So we have both systems, just like you do in your home. You've got your house wiring, you've got your garage door opener, you got your Wi-Fi. So there's, and they usually get that because, you know, everybody understands that stuff nowadays. But when I was first in practice, I didn't have analogies like that. I don't really know anything about computers anyway, but I would use the analogy of the old TV sets that had the rabbit ears, and Gene might remember this, where, you know, they'd be all fuzzy and you're trying to watch the ball game, and you get your brother or sister to go up and hold the antenna until, you know, the play's over, and then, you know, and the next time it's your turn. I mean, that's how I grew up watching TV. And so our nervous system is like that. You've got all these signals going, and how they resonate and line up determines how clear of a conversation goes on between the different parts of you, between your central nervous system and your periphery. So I'm not an acupuncturist. I know just enough to be dangerous about acupuncture, but I work with the meridians every day. I use mainly tonification points, sedation points, and B&E points. It's just if I had it to do over, I'd probably spend another 2 years after chiropractic college and get my acupuncture degree, but I never did that. So what's that? Oh. So that's the 5 factors. So we'll come back to that time and time again. A muscle, we want to fix muscles, but if the muscles don't stay fixed, we start looking at the 5 factors. And at first, we're just going to learn how to test muscles and kind of fix them locally, and then we're going to work our way into the 5 factors. So that's where we're headed. I won't read this; it's too long. But please read this in your notes. This is Dr. Belli. He just recently stepped down as our president of the ICAK USA. He did 2 or 3 terms. He's a fantastic guy, and he's also a neurologist. But he wrote this bit about what really happens when we test a muscle. And in AK, people get into all kinds of things. They're observing emotional stuff. I mean, all kinds of stuff through a muscle test. But we have to always remember that we're actually testing a reflex arc. When it comes down to it, we're really, all of this test always involves the afferent and efferent components of the reflex loop. And no matter what, if we're testing for past lives or alien invasions or entities or whatever it might be, I know a lot of you are into NET, so. Oh, I know. I've taken NET. I love NET. I know. It's sort of a stepping off. It's a stepping. I love NET. I took the NET training years ago and just loved it. And of course, the first morning, somebody had a vanishing twin. And I know. And I'm like, what the heck? And so they really had me at that point. Vanishing twin. Anyway, so, and there was all kinds of interesting things. So I don't do NET nowadays. I do an emotional protocol that is sort of streamlined for me, and don't go into the whole NET thing. But I have practitioners that do that I often refer to. But please, kind of, this is Dr. Belli is just, and if you ever go to the ICAK, any of the conferences, some of you have been, find him and hang out with him for a bit. He's a great guy and he's so generous. He'll answer any question you want. Yes.
I was also gonna say, at ICAK now, which is super nice, they didn't have this when I was a student, they do have a student track.
Yes.
So they have really awesome speakers like Dr. Bandy and a lot of us who are now just like getting to practice different things. But they have a student track, so you can actually like they simplify a lot of their techniques and different things, so you guys can actually learn. When I went, it was like so far over my head, and I was just there for the party, which is true because it's super fun, and I think you should go because it's so fun to be around all these doctors who just have 40, 50 years of experience and knowledge.
Not that much.
How
Less than.
hundreds of years. But so that's a really great opportunity for you guys to learn really cool stuff. Meet docs because they're looking to hire. So you want a job, doing AK, like most of them are always hiring. But just being there and being able to soak it all in. But now you get to actually learn a lot of stuff on the student track. So it's super fun. I think the club usually like gets you guys all together to go. So it's always in July. It's fun.
Yep.
Get them together.
Yeah. We're all of that.
Supreme Nutrition always offers a scholarship. So they usually will, I think you got the scholarship, right? So they pay for you to get guys to go.
Oh, that's how you ended up on it.
Wally used to host lunch for all the students. So I think a couple docs do that now in his place. So
That saves me from having to give the plug for the ICAK. Thank you.
Well,
Well done.
it's more for the club student now than
Absolutely, yeah. I went as a doc. I'd been in practice for years, and I went. My first one was in Palm Springs. I'd never been to Palm Springs before either. And I was I'd been studying AK for quite a while at that point, and I was just, I mean, David Walter was like a rock star to me. Because I'd been working with the Blue Book, and I, you know, and Goodhart and Leaf and all these guys, they were just these legends out there. And then I walk in and here they are. First guy I see is David Walter. He's heading out of the lobby in the hotel to have a smoke. And he's way smaller than I thought he was. You know? Anyway, I met all these people, and now a lot of them are really good friends. I sat down next to the doc from who was our president several years ago from Fairfax. Oh shoot. Anyway, I sat next to him at the very first ICAK meeting, Tom Roselle, Dr. Tom Roselle, wonderful guy. And I sat down and he goes, Tom Roselle. And he starts talking about all the stuff he did, and he'd been doing AK. And so he was the first guy I actually got to know. And now I consider him a good friend years later, you know. I sat on boards with him and different things. But yeah, it's a wonderful organization. And we need fresh talent. We need fresh young people. A lot of the old timers, I'm now one of the old timers. And a lot of them are going away. I think we've lost 3 in the last less than 3 years or so. Yeah, we lost 2. We lost 1. Wally's been 4 years. We lost David. We lost Mike Allen this year. That's right, so 3. Anyway, yeah, they're dropping. They're getting old, and yeah. So why test muscles? 35 to 45% of the body is made of muscle. It's the only tissue in the body that's capable of changing length. It's responsible for pretty much everything, macroscopically and microscopically. Our movement, our internal, you know, our the physiology of our cells, the mechanics of our cell walls is all dependent upon muscle squeezing and moving. It creates the rhythm of our living experience. So why not test it? I mean, we test everything else, right? We test blood, we test, you know, urine, it's so obvious to me that we would want to find ways to interact with this system. It's like this real-time window into the central nervous system. So anyway, just a list. These are all the things we're going to be kind of delving into using muscle testing as we go forward. Joint dysfunction, of course, top of the list here. We kind of get into these. Probably should move this up a little bit. I'm really into visceral work, so I love working with gut issues and visceral problem. I've had quite a bit of extra training in visceral over the years. Glandular dysfunction, that's really fun, especially with students and everybody in modern times. We're all running way over into the red, the red zone on our TAC. Too much, have been for several decades now. I think my generation probably started it. I don't know. Our parents' generation were more connected to survival, and my generation would indulge in a lot more things, and we've created too much complexity, I think. But anyway, so all these things can be sort of investigated, in some way measured, and in some way corrected. So brief history, I got tons of information. What Dr. Whitney said, check out the ICAK website, get familiar with it. Dr. George Goodhart was the founder of AK. He was a chiropractor and a naturopath, actually. A lot of the docs that way back in the day had dual degrees. A lot of my mentors in chiropractic college were DCs, NDs, because the two schools in Portland used to be the same school. I mean, Western States Chiropractic College was also the naturopathic college, and then they split in the late 50s, early 60s, and now we have a naturopathic college and we have a chiropractic college. But a lot of the docs that graduated in the way back, like in the 50s, had dual degrees. He graduated in 39, then he went into the Army Air Corps during World War II. He was I could be corrected, but he was either a bombardier or a navigator on a B-24 bomber. And then he got out of the service after the war, and he went into practice with his father, who was a chiropractor, and practiced there the rest. He was in Dearborn. Is it Dearborn, Michigan? Yeah, I think it's Dearborn, Michigan. He's been there ever since. So, well, until he died, in a way. I was fortunate enough to meet him and have some conversations with him at some of the conferences. He was just amazing. He was still practicing clear up into his 80s. He was only about this tall. When I was studying AK before I started, before I ever saw Goodhart, I'd see these pictures. I thought he was this giant of a man, And then I saw him at the first ICAK conference, and he's this tall. And anyway, so he was the first chiropractor to be on an Olympic team, a medical team, and that was at Lake Placid in 1980, Lake Placid Winter Olympics. There's a lot of other chiropractors that have been involved in the Olympics since then, but he was the first, and a lot of people don't realize that. There was an interesting story he used to tell about a skier, and it wasn't a US skier, it was another from another country that was having problems, couldn't stay in his tuck. He was a downhill racer. And somehow they got Dr. Goodhart to take a look at him, and he had a weak rectus abdominis, but it only weakened after repeated contractions. And that actually spawned a technique called repeated muscle activation technique, which we'll learn about down the line. But of course, helped the skier with his treatment so that these muscles didn't burn out so quick. A lot of times muscles will be fine. Those of you who've worked with athletes, they'll be fine for 3 miles, but at mile 5, things start to break down. So by mile 6, they're way into compromise. I mean, they're way into compensatory function. And these are real tricky for trainers to deal with. Anyway, he was big on quotes, and he liked words like unerring. He spoke like if you ever listen to any old recordings of some of the great orators from the 30s and 40s and 50s, he spoke in that sort of style. He was a trip. He would get up at the beginning of every conference, he would be the first speaker, and he would lecture for 2 hours with no break. And everybody, the guy was like, he was like our leader, and it's like 2 hours, come on. But nobody got up and left, And then as he got older, he started just lecturing for 1 hour, and then it got to where he'd lecture for a while, then he had to sit down. And then that was probably about 86 or 87, and we lost him at 89. So anyway, this timeline, he first discovered the correlation between muscle function and an orthopedic problem. First really made that connection in 64. And there was this wonderful story that he told over and over about a patient of his who he had already done some really good work with and improved his thyroid function. He had a low thyroid problem, but he had this chronic shoulder issue. And he kept coming in and said, my shoulder's still not right. So Dr. Goodhart had been studying muscle testing from the book Kendall and Kendall, which was a book published in the late 40s during the polio epidemic, actually, how to isolate explanation. So structural, chemical, so mental, emotional, NET, all your NET stuff, and there's a lot of different techniques that use muscle testing. Are you familiar with David Hawkins' power versus force? Yeah. Anyway, there's a lot of offshoots of AK that use muscle testing, in this context, we'll be looking at structure, biomechanical, nutritional, and then of course, motion, which I don't get into too heavy, but that's going to influence the biochemical, which is going to influence how the muscles fire, which is going to influence the structural.
I'd love to learn the way you do emotions. To give people like,
Sure, I mean,
like just so people
yeah.
have options, right?
Yeah.
Because not everyone likes AK, or I mean, any teeth, so,
well, NAT is beautiful, but it is pretty time consuming.
sure.
Yeah, and honestly, I'd love to.
Because beyond the neurovascular, I don't know other, I mean, besides going like human RT and like a whole another,
Well,
if you would like to.
I would love to share. I don't know if any of you have emotional issues, so I don't know who.
Yeah.
Sure,
I don't have
somebody
any
does.
stress here.
I certainly do. Okay, so anyway, whole person content. Holism, when AK was first being taught back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, the concept of holism, a lot of these concepts seem a little like old-fashioned, but in its day, nowadays everybody's familiar with holistic thinking, especially your community. But in those days, it was pretty new. And when Dr. Gerhardt was teaching these chiropractors, a lot of them were really, really locked in on just bone out of place thinking, and they weren't thinking holistically. So some of these slides may seem a little, well, yeah, we know that. Anyway, so here's my slide again. I wanted to put this back in here just to kind of, keep our thinking straight. So 5 factors, I'm going to go into a little more depth on that. Let's see where we went. So actually, I want to, before we go there, I want to do a little bit of training for those of you that are brand new. Anyone want to volunteer? Anyone have an issue like a shoulder, neck?
My neck got super stuck last week and I'm still recovering.
Okay. Anybody have a knee, ankle, shoulder? Knee? Knee. Okay. Why don't you come up first? Your name was
Melina.
Melvin. Okay, so are you okay with the test? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to have you lay on your back. Is your right knee?
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know her history. We don't know how she hurt her knee. If you could tell me.
I don't know. I think that's fine.
Okay, so it wasn't like an obvious event.
No.
Yeah, it just kind of showed up.
Yeah.
Okay. So have you heard it before?
No.
Any history of injury or surgery or anything to either knee? Ankle?
No.
Ankle sprains?
Yeah.
Which one?
When I was young.
Okay. This is more recent.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll just do a quick thing. I'll just show you. We're going to learn all this stuff, but I'm going to test her quads a couple different ways.
You guys can like come along with that.
So this is, I'm going to test her quads as a group. Well, they're like you're going to push up like you're kicking. So the test, push. The test is about a 2 to 3 second crescendo. Pushing in my hand. Okay. So that tests really well. Now I'm going to test the rectus femoris. Push. And that's actually pretty good. Push. Okay, so that's good. So then I'm going to test her hamstrings. And there's several ways to test these, but this is, hold that right there. Pull your heel towards your hip. So that's the medial hamstring. And that one's not holding, okay? And lateral hamstring, not too bad. So medial hamstring, so far we got a medial hamstring, and that can certainly cause a knee problem, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I would think. And that's where it attaches, is that tender.
Yes.
Has and serene is tender. Okay, so I'm going to test now, and we'll learn this. Unfortunately, this is a few quarters down, a few sessions down. This is the popliteus. Hold that right there. Hold. Now her ankle is giving way, but I'm looking for motion here. Hold, and it actually is really good. So the popliteus is fine, but the medial hamstring is not. Now push out. We're going to learn this one this session. It's the gluteus medius, one of the tests for the gluteus. Okay, that's weak. We're going to test the psoas, knee straight, and that's not firing. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You sure?
Yeah.
Okay, if anything hurts, let me know.
Okay. That one kind of hurt.
Where? There. Okay. So it's interesting. Her rectus femoris tests well when I test it, but I have a suspicion there's something not right with it. Let's test this psoas. Push up. That's nice and crisp. I'm looking for that crisp response. Gluteus medius, and that's rock solid. I mean, you look at that, and I'm giving that a pretty good push, but that one can't do it. So for a muscle to hold, for a muscle to respond to an increasing force, it takes a lot of neurology. Takes a lot of computing, a lot of conversation between the muscle and the central nervous system and back again, a lot of fine tuning. And if the muscle saves 60, 70%, it still functions, it still holds you up, but it can't do that. This muscle all day long, I couldn't push this in if I had to. But this one here, no big deal. She can hold, but if I increase the pressure, she can't respond. So that's what we're always looking for with these tests. So we don't know why the knee hurts, but we do know that there's a weak muscle. And there's several weak muscles. So if I was going to go just locally, I'm going to ask you if you can reach around and touch the medial hamstring area. You use that head, there you go, and use 2 or 3, two fingers. Don't hard, just touch it. Yeah. So she's kind of now there. Drop it, head back. There you go. Drop it down. Hold there again. Just making sure my test is good. Now see, it's strong, right? Hold. Good. Take your hand away. Hold. We got lucky. So right off the bat, we have positive therapy localization, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. Our medial hamstring. We knew the medial hamstring was weak. We know, so I'm going to assume now that where she TL'd, I need to look there, and that's where the spindles are. So is it okay if I push? Yeah. So I'm going to go into her medial hamstring. It's easier if they're face down, but we could do. And I'm going to look for a trigger point, or hotspot. A lot of times that's where, is that okay?
Yeah.
How about in here?
Yeah, right there.
Right there.
Yeah.
And then right here. And that's almost vastus medialis, but so I'm going to go in, I'm just going to go in and I'm going to press in, and I'm doing basically this, pushing in and pulling apart. And that should wake up the spindle cells, reboot that conversation between central nervous system and muscle. And that's pretty good. So that was a very simple, that was a perfect example of a simple, straightforward way to turn a muscle on. If you're a trainer working with an athlete on the sidelines, these little things can be magic, because you don't have the time to go through a big whole adjusting thing. But that one muscle could lead to all kinds of other problems. And if you nip it in the bud, right before running event or something. Okay, let's see what happened to the psoas. Push. That actually turned off. That somehow was reacting to what was going on with the hamstring. Now there could be more going on. There obviously is. There's probably a little pelvic torsion there that we could address. We had a gluteus medius. Push. I couldn't push that in if I had to. And that's all from that one. I feel like I'm a medicine show guy here trying to sell you on a potion, but that I'm tickled because a lot of times when you get people up for demonstrations, they're way more complicated than, but this is very straightforward. So that, push. Clear that right up. Now get up and walk around a little bit, please. Just walk around the room and kind of stress the teacher. Yeah. Just kind of, you know, just wake up the receptor there. You know, there you go. Good. I'm laying back. I'm just seeing if it lasts till the patient gets up and pays their bill and, you know, gets out of the building, right? Well, that's pretty good. Push. So it didn't go weak again. If it did, then of course we need to push it. And that's actually still strong. So, I mean, that's pretty good. A lot of times they go walk around and then it kind of brings something else to the surface. So thank you.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Perfect. Yeah. Like Antique Roadshow. So thanks for bringing that in. It's actually a good example. Can we check your neck? This help. Well, winding. So what happened to your neck along the way?
I was on the computer like this, and all of a sudden it was I don't know how to explain it. It was just like this extreme pain. It felt like my bone just slipped. And then I couldn't move like
When was that?
here on Monday.
On Monday?
Now I can move a whole lot more, but
So you were,
definitely still really tense.
so it happened while you were aware of it.
Yeah.
You're doing this now. Okay. Do you have a history of neck issues?
Stiffness, like on the computer, but I nothing more than
Any
that.
whiplash injuries or anything like that? Or
No, but I get
anything
when
brought
I'm
from
in
the
the
head?
car, I like if I turn my head quickly, I get whiplash all the time. But not for no car crash.
You
But
haven't had.
like I turn my head, it's like that's
Gotcha. Have a seat. Well, actually, we won't do all. Normally I would check posture. We're not going to do that because we do that in a little while, but I'm just going to have a seat. We'll pretend that, now, anything else I should know? Have you ever been adjusted? Your neck adjusted?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you tolerate adjusting well?
Mhm.
Okay. So I'm just going to feel if there's anything obvious. I'm not going to adjust your neck. But I'm going to see if it needs to be adjusted. Now, right there, I can feel it's got like this way, kind of springy. This way, not so springy. She's got a fixation right about C3. But now, what I'm interested in, hold that right there. Hold. So that's the serratus anterior. It's the upper division. There. And now, those are both really good. These are all muscles innervated by the brachial plexus, which is amazing. What's the latissimus dorsi innervated by? It was clear down into the SI joint. Cervical. It's innervated by the brachial plexus. Muscle has a huge amount to do with your shoulder and your pelvis. So a neck problem can cause healthy problems. And that's all good. Let's try it. Push. These are rotated. I'm not finding what I thought I would find. Push. Okay. I'm going to have you put your neck into this position. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm. It's a little uncomfortable, but
Okay, let's go. Just okay. Is that better?
Mhm.
Okay. Now I'm going to go back to this muscle here. Hold there. It goes. Now with your head in neutral, she's fine. But with her head here, she's kind of more into lesion. So there's nothing wrong with this deltoid except that now it's not getting the right nerve supply. Oh, we'll do this one here. That one was really strong. So in that position, we loosen. So everything. We could even probably scoot back just a little bit. This is not a great rectus test, but I use it. So hold that right there. So clear down that muscle, turn your head on there, so there. So it weakens, weakens her glute. So, this could be an old neck issue that's just never solved. Now I'm going to test the neck muscles themselves. That's the scalene muscles that's improved. And then the SCM, I'm going to learn that one here in a little bit. Okay.
Yeah.
SCM, those are really good. I'm going to test your neck extensors. Bring your head back. Tell me if that's painful there.
Yeah, it's,
Where? There. Not here. Not here.
Yeah.
Because I want her just short of pain. Because pain will often make a muscle go weak, and so I don't want it. There, I'm going to push you forward and block you in front. Yeah, so her neck extensors are not firing well, which explains, a lot. Touch right here on your lumbars. She's therapy localizing of her lower lumbars. I'll explain all this later. Is that paper? Okay. Okay, just short pain.
Yeah.
Okay. Raised here, I'm pushing you forward. Totally turns. So she has an issue in her lower lumbars. She has an issue in her. And it's affecting, when she goes into certain positions, certain muscles are coming. So, well, but hang on to that. That's a very interesting case. Yeah. So, then you could say, well, you can fix the subluxations. Why are the subluxations there? Well, then you have to setting back other dominoes. Maybe she's got a blood sugar problem. Maybe she's got, maybe she's just spending too much time doing pills, but she already told me that, which is kind of unavoidable. So, do one more. Does anybody have help? Yeah.
yeah.
What?
Low back pain.
Low back pain? We have face paper for these things. Let's see, Kevin. We have tissues. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Yeah, they hide it up there, probably. All right, so let's get this, I don't get this day. So, let's do one more. There, they face down. Now, I've skipped a bunch of stuff. I would have done posture on her. I'd had history, probably palpated things, maybe watched her walk, watched her do a squat. You can learn a lot from having a person just do a basic squat, freestanding squat. But I haven't done any of that, so I don't know anything about her. Got a little something there. So if people have low back pain, usually they have painful low back. Is that tender?
Yes.
There.
Yeah.
Okay. Same. Okay, here,
Yeah.
there.
Yes.
So this is all generally kind of tight and sore, and she's kind of stuck here too. I mean, these middle and upper lumbar are just they're kind of like this. Dr. Wally, Dr. Whitney, appreciate this, but Dr. Wally, great big guy. He would do this thing. Okay, I'm a vertebrae. And he would go, and I move like this. And I've got vertebrae above me moving like that. Then I get injured. And now I'm like this. So kind of moving. And it was just so beautiful the way, and he was always wearing a three-piece suit. I mean, decked and, perfectly groomed. And he would, he was a wonderful guy. Huge loss. So right now she has a little bit of a pelvic torsion. But let's see what her glute max is doing. learn this one this weekend. Hold that right there. I'm going to support her here. Hold your leg like that. Hold there. Now you okay?
Yeah,
Is that painful?
yeah.
Where?
Here.
Okay. So I can't, I could do the test, but I can tell she can't hold it there. If she probably could override it if if I ask her to, but so, I don't need to test that muscle. I know it's weak. Hold there. Or inhibited. Push, push. Right? Yeah. So see, this one's better. Both glute maxes are really, really lackluster. Hold there. That's the piriformis. We're going to learn that one this weekend. Very, very important muscle. Not so much. So things aren't firing well here. You do okay?
Mhm.
Now I'm going to put some pressure. I know she's stuck right here. She really needs some more better movement here. So I'm going to put some pressure just to kind of hold her vertebrae. It feel like it needs to move this way. So I'm going to kind of hold it that way. Bring this up again. See if you can hold that. And push into my hand. Yeah. Is it so painful?
A little painful, but it's easier to do.
Oh, still painful?
Yeah.
Okay, but she can actually hold it. I'm going to put a little different. I'm going to change my vector. It's going to be P to A and a little bit right to left. Bring that up. Push, push. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Still painful?
No.
Not painful. Okay, so not painful and strong. Push, push. Okay, now try this side. So this general poor function in her glutes right now is due to that fixation. I know that. Now, there could be other stuff. There could be a reason why that's fixated. That could be have something to do. Maybe her gait is off. Maybe she's got something going on with that. You had an injury. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. So that would be helpful. What kind of injury?
Well, it's like an injury. It's like
A bad adjustment. Oh, I hate hearing that. So she had a bad adjustment, which is an injury. So you can come up now. I don't want to do another adjustment on it. Actually, no, let's do FaceTime. Let's just do it. And I'm not gonna crack her. What's that?
So you gotta redeem her bad experience.
Well, I would really like to, I'd really like to see, I'm pretty sure this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to challenge, and we're going to learn that here pretty soon too. I need to find a strong indicator muscle. So far, everything I've tested here in the clear is not strong indicator muscle. So I'm going to see if maybe the hamstring's firing pretty good. Push into my hand. No. See my arm when I test the hamstring? There we go. There's a good one. Don't test the hamstring this way. Number one, if you're strong enough to test that way, you're going to be tired by the end of the day. Just train yourself so you can use your weight. You don't have to push hard, but use your weight so you don't have to strain your. Let that relax. So I'm going to use this as my strong indicator muscle. Push, push. First, I'm going to go in and I'm going to spindle down the middle of those three hamstring muscles, trying to hold there, and that turns them off, right? I'm right back on. That tells me that the muscle is normotonic. It's calibrated, neurologically speaking. If it didn't turn off, then I wouldn't use it as an indicator. So, push, push, strong muscle. I'm going to go in here, and I had the best. I was pushing her this way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push the opposite direction, and I'm going to let the vertebrae bounce towards correction. Hold, push, push. No change. Now I'm going to push this way, the way that I was correcting it. Push, push. And it goes weak. That's what we call a rebound challenge. So we have two ways of challenging, and I'm getting ahead of myself here, but we have two ways of challenging. We have a static
and a rebound. And when we statically challenge, we push the vertebrae in the direction that we think it needs to go. And we think that because of how it affects the muscle test. Now, that's a static challenge. A rebound challenge, you push the muscle, the vertebrae in the direction you think it needs to go, and you let it go. What happens, it bounces further into lesion because of the intrinsic fibers. That will give you a kind of a wave of noxious stimuli through the nervous system, and you'll get a weak muscle. So rebound challenge is better for determining vector of correction, though static challenge is good too. The rebound challenge ultimately is better for accuracy. A lot of times the static challenge is really good for diagnosis, really good for finding what turns on a muscle. So I could put her on her right side, start cracking bones like I love to do, but what I'm she just told me she had a bad adjustment, so we're going to try something different. What I'm going to do is I'm going to press in the direction of correction. Push, push. I'm going to do that one more time. And of course, we get a weak muscle, and that would weaken any muscle in the body, except for these, which are already weak. Now I'm going to ask you to take a deep breath in. Take a deep breath in. I'm going to challenge, push, push. And that negates the challenge. Breathe out. Do that. I always measure twice, measure thrice, cut once. Breathe in. Hold the breath. Push, push. Yeah. Breath in negates the challenge. So now I'm going to make that correction the same as I would if I put her on the right side and rolled her back. I'm going to make that correction while she takes a deep breath. This is what we call respiratory assist correction. Breathe in and let it go. Breathe in again. And you as the let it go. As the practitioner, your hands, you're kind of riding along with that vertebrae. And a lot of times you can feel when it kind of finds its way back into normalcy. Breathe again. There we go. Woo. Okay, breathe in again. Breathe. Good. That's nice. One more time. There you go. Now, there's more here. The pelvis could probably use some tweaking. But let's see what's happened here. We had a weak hamstring, right? Push, push. That's turned back on. We had 2 weak glute maxes. Hold there. And that's still weak, but it's not as weak. You okay?
Mhm.
Still painful?
A little bit.
A little bit. Push, push. No, that's still there. So probably, so here's, I'm going to push down. She's got a little bit of a sacral rotation there. I'm going to hold your sacrum down and go ahead and do that again. And this is a static challenge. Push, push, push up. That doesn't do it.
No.
Okay, so I'm going to push your sacrum sort of here. And you can push it any way you want. And that's better. Okay, so she has a sacral thing too. Let's not do that right now, okay?
Okay.
But this did clear up hamstring. Good. And we'll see now that we have a strong muscle there, I'm going to challenge this again. And hold. And it doesn't weaken. So we cleared, at least for now, that lesion. We were able to clear it with that respiratory correction. And that is going to improve the hamstrings and somewhat the glutes, though we need to finish to get the glutes really firing. That's why the low back is messed up. These are where all of our power is in our glutes. When these relatively small back muscles get all tight because they're trying to do the job of everybody else. And back up. Please say you okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm thinking.
Does it? Yeah. It's a little, yeah, it's kind of an odd. Have you been injured in your back before?
I
In
just
sports?
had to, I don't know. I did dance my whole life.
Anyway. Any questions? Any of that makes sense. The hodgepodge sort of random sampling of, that's the kind of stuff I do all day in my house. Faster because I'm not talking. So 5 factors. Spinal nerve, we went right to spinal nerve first. We went to spinal nerve first on you. With the the knee, we went, no, the knee, we went, went right into the muscle and turned the muscle on, and it seemed to clear a bunch of stuff. So fine. I'm just saying what I already said. Remember the muscle test still hinges on that, what they call the final common pathway, that the motor that leads the spinal cord. So Chapman reflexes, we'll go over those really quick. I wish I had the chart in here. Were you able to download the thing and send it to everybody?
Not yet, we're gonna do it on.
We have to use the one this thing is turned in, we have to take it out. So we only
Take a
extract.
quick break.
Oh, okay. Well, we
You tell us when.
I'll bring the chart tomorrow though.
yeah, I'll go through these and then we'll take a break and then we'll start doing some actual muscle.
Okay, if they have the blue book copy, that it's page 45,
Very good.
they can bring that up. They'll look
Okay.
at it for the time.
Now, tell me, the PDF version I have of, again, this is being filmed with the ICAK system.
Page 47.
When I look at the index on the PDF version I have, it doesn't match up with the page number. I go to that page number, it's something different.
So
So
maybe
maybe,
that's what, because I think they looked at 45.
maybe I need a different version. So Chapman reflexes, just in brief, we talked a little bit about it. They're primitive reflexes and they are believed to pick up tension information that tells the brain where it needs to go. That's the best, I think.
So they're called neurolymphatic reflexes
Right.
in the book.
Thank you. The Bennett reflexes are related to, I think the other thing I said that Bennett and Chapman were DOs. Chapman was a DO, Bennett was actually a chiropractor. And he mapped out these vascular points that would seem to affect the blood flow in different parts of the body. And that's what Dr. Goodhart integrated into AK as one of the 5 factors. But that's a mismark there. That should be neurovascular. Forget that. Change that. The Bennett points, you hold them like you would a cranium. You find the points, you put a little tug and you hold them until you feel equal pulsations. They're usually, I don't go to them unless patients, sometimes it's the most gentle thing I can do for a patient. If they're really in pain or if they're really old, they're very gentle and I think they're very helpful. They're not the first thing I go to. Cranial respiratory, cerebral spinal fluid. Okay, so this was this was discovered many years ago that there was this mechanism, and eventually he made his way into the osteopathic profession. Really kind of took this and ran with it. And then of course chiropractic over the years, and then of course Dr. Desjardins was actually a DO who originated SOT, who Dr. Goodhart actually learned SOT from. He was good friends with Dr. Goodhart's father. That's an interesting. So the way we screen for craniosacral problems is if you have a weak muscle, patient take a deep breath. muscle will turn. That's an indication you've let the cranials and the pelvis and often the diaphragm. I find the diaphragm to be just as often involved, the diaphragm and that part of the thorax, the cranial sacral mechanism. But that's how we screen. Now, when I was working on first name again, the low back, Jennifer, thank you. I was working on Jennifer's low back, and I did the challenge to her spine. I had her take a deep breath, and that negated the challenge. Now that's so. There's a lot of ways we'll use breath in, breath out, see if it changes the challenge. And that's one. But when you have, if you only find a weak muscle, and you have them breathe in, hold it, and it strengthens or changes somehow, that's an indication. There might be other things too. There's always other things, but we're trying to find the biggest first thing. We're looking for hits. Anyway, Dr. Goodhart, one time he said we produce more cerebral spinal fluid in a day than we do urine, which I thought was there's a lot of urine. But so acupuncture, I know how many of you are also studying TCM?
Part of
Part of your thing, yeah, that's great. So, and you're all using needles too. So, anyway, so you probably, a lot of you know more about acupuncture than I do. Their teeth. I love this illustration. It kind of shows the relationship of the different energetic models that people have come up with down through time. We definitely have an energetic body. All kinds of names attached to it, the etheric body, chakras. I've studied yoga for many years, so I learned about chakras before I learned about any of this other stuff. So I had to kind of layer on other things I would learn. Now I realize that it's just all about the same system. Chakras. I think I mentioned this last year. Any of you heard of Dr. Joe Dispenza? Yeah. Dr. Dispenza has a ton of great stuff. A lot of it's a little flashy, if you're too much new age, it's not your thing, then you go. But he has a book called Becoming Super. A great book. One of my favorites of his is called Breaking Habit Doers. But in the books Becoming Supernatural, there's a chapter in there. He describes how he correlates the model of the chakras and the energy spinning generators with the cerebral spinal mechanism and the pineal. It's absolutely elegant the way he describes it. The best I've ever seen. So if you get that chapter is worth the price of the book. It's where science and mysticism sort of just come together. It's a wonderful thing. So energy flows, we all know that. Energy is kind of overused, I think the term. But chi travels through the spaces. It travels along the myofascial matrix, which is, and so when that myofascial matrix gets tangled and compressed and damaged and cut, the meridian flow, that the wireless energy has to bounce around and find another path, and sometimes it can't, or it balls up and then creates problems. So years ago, I got to be friends with a German diplomat, Dr. Gardner. He's retired now, but amazing guy. And he, we were talking about meridians, and he was a big fan of this author named Pitchler. He was a German author. Very little of this stuff was translated in English, but this guy had done tons of different studies, I guess in the 50s, on the fascial matrix and the electrical flow that follows along with it. And he turned me on to a bunch of writings of this guy, and it just really opened up my understanding of this. Is like, before that was like, well, where is the energy? So you got the energy, and then you got this hard body. How do they interface? They're not separate at all. I mean, it's literally they're part of the same human, the same biological system, and they're interdependent. So, anyway, acupuncture, you guys know. So anyway, I spend a lot of time with these in my practice. These are the associated points that will correspond to, well, they'll be affected by suppositions and fixations, and then they, of course, they're all on the bladder meridian, but then they correspond to all the other meridians. So these are very helpful. These will therapy localize, and you can treat them with acupressure, or needles, or whatever you want. But we'll find ways to correlate problems with the meridians through the associated points. There's more pictures. I don't know why there's so many pictures of this. So each muscle honestly, I did these. Some of these slides came with this animation thing, and I do a lot of cut and paste. I find it annoying. I got to figure out how to deactivate that. Yeah, it's like trying to be cute and clever, but so each muscle has a relationship to an organ or gland. Each muscle has a relationship to a meridian. So, for example, the psoas is associated with the kidney meridian. The deltoid is associated with the lung meridian. So some meridians have several muscles associated. Some have maybe one or two, and that's always helpful when you're going through your exam. It's like this, fix this person's pelvis and their psoas muscles turned off, but then the next day they come back and they're off again. Then it's time to look deeper. And one of the first things with psoas, for example, is you look at the meridian, the kidney meridian, and often they're dehydrated. They're not getting enough sleep. In Chinese medicine, the kidney meridian and the adrenals were sort of functionally all sort of back together. They didn't really know what the adrenals were back in the days when they coming up with these models. But when you think kidney meridian, you also think adrenals. But also when you think triple warmer, of course, you're thinking thyroid. When you think pericardium, you're thinking hormones, reproductive hormones, and also adrenals. Anyway, this slide here, something that I really enjoy working with new students on is learning how to use your body as a testing instrument. Because when we're doing muscle testing or any kind of physical examination, we are using our muscles, our five senses, to be an effective measuring tool or tool. So it's as important to prepare ourselves when we're getting ready to work on patients as it is to prepare the patient. Now, sometimes patients come in and they're not really very testable. They're stressed, they rush to get there, they have, all kinds of reasons. They had, Cheerios for breakfast and, whatever. And it takes a while to get them into a state where their body can really give you some really clear. But we also need to be, if we're rushing to the office, guzzling coffee and having, heated conversations, listening to the news, any of that kind of stuff, and then we go right into treating patients, we pack all that with us. And that will muddle up our effectiveness as a testing tool. That's very, very important. And and the more I'm in practice, the more important that is. So speed of the test, we're going to be getting speed of the test is about a 1 to 2 second push-up. 1,000, 2, 1,000. Now some sources will say it's a 1 to 2 second. I think it's a 2 to 3. If you do 1 to 2 seconds, you're getting, depending on what you're testing. But anyway, 2 to 3 second cushion. Remember that. Pressure, where you interface with the patient, your sense of their pushing back has to be very carefully monitored, and you have to make sure you're not pressing too hard. Once again, with speed, you have to give them a chance to either load and hold the muscle or push into your testing hand. And then how long you do it, 2 to 3 seconds. But if we borrow somebody just for a second. And do you have any issues with your shoulders or arms? Okay, if I test your
No.
shoulders. Let's see. So I'm just, the deltoid is the first muscle we learn, and it's really, it's one of the easiest to learn, but it's also one of the easiest to overpower unintentionally. So let's have you hold. So this is how we test the deltoid as a group, middle deltoid. And watch my elbow, hold. Good. Now, that's strong. That muscle is intact, responds exactly the way I would expect. I'm gonna do this side here. And hold on. Good too. Okay. So now if I test it this way. So that's weak. It's not weak. It's fine. Her muscle's fine. But if I rush it like that, sorry to be urgent. That's the most common mistake I see people making when they first start testing. Or that's the most common. Maybe the second most common is they go like this. And they're just not really pushing hard enough to make the muscle respond. So that's kind of a problem too. But never rush them. Make sure you've made a connection, pushing my hand, and never test once. Once is just not good. Test once, twice, especially when you have someone who hasn't been tested a lot. Really good. Those are perfect examples of deltoid muscles that if I go in the middle of your deltoid and I'm pushing towards the center, this turns down the muscle spindles. She goes weak. It lasts for just a second. And that tells you that the muscle is okay. If you don't always need to do that, that's really, really helpful. When you're determining, especially if you're going to use this as an indicator. Now, maybe I would want to maybe go ahead and put your hand over your forehead. Many ET folks would understand that. Close your eyes. Take your hand away. Close your right eye. Right. Close your left eye. Close or eyes up and to the right. Or just the eyes. Eyes up and to the left. Oh, she's in good shape. Wow, that's really good. Okay, thanks. Yeah, so speed, pressure, duration, take your time. Talking about the sort of neuro perspective of muscle testing, anything essentially potentially can change a muscle response. It doesn't necessarily mean, it doesn't always mean something, but usually when you're getting erratic muscle responses, there's something inconsistent in your testing, or your patient there's something else. They might be what we call switched or neurologically disorganized, which we won't really get into this session. We'll get into it later, but these are the people that are rushed to get there. They've had a triple latte and an argument with their spouse, and all of a sudden they're in your office. And you can't just go right into. You have to clear them, get them a chance to go get back into some semblance of neutral between sympathetic and parasympathetic state. So this is a whole bunch, there's a bunch of slides here that I'm not going to go through right now, but there's a bunch of slides that have references to different studies and whatnot. Some people just love that stuff. There's been a lot of different studies done. Some show that muscle testing is super reliable, and some show that it's completely ridiculous. Depends on who you read. The tests that are not worth really even reading are the ones where they had inexperienced muscle testers doing the testing. People who had maybe, an hour of training. In tests where they've had people with years of experience, seasoned, AK docs, it's very consistent. And, but there are studies, if you like studies, and you're trying to convince someone, school, AK is legit, and we've got studies. Because that seems to be the currency these days in healthcare. Anyway, yeah, this is a bunch of stuff here that we can go back through if you get, but you'll have these in your notes. Okay, so the purpose of this class, there's two main approaches to muscle testing. Now, I kind of did both with these demos. You can, there's patient initiated, that's where you ask the patient to push into your testing. Then you initiate the test. And then there's doctor examiner initiated, and that's where the patient is to hold, and then you initiate the test. It's believed that they're accessing slightly different parts of the brain. So when the patient is asked to initiate the test, it's believed that you're involving higher centers in the brain. So for whatever that's worth, I will often test both ways with the patient. If I have a muscle that I'm really trying to really dial in, I'll test it all kinds of ways. And when I have a new patient that's not familiar with muscle testing, I have a whole kind of spiel I go through as I'm getting them, familiar with it. I will have them initiate the test so they can get a sense, so we get that connected. A lot of times folks are really not in the body. And it's amazing how many people, you tell them to push out with their leg and they just don't know what that means. They're pushing in, they're like, there's people all over the map sometimes. And let's take a break. When we do fix our gadgetry and get you guys the notes.